Hello everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of New Earth Practices. This is going to be very exciting. I'm very happy to roll this out finally, as I've been talking about it for the past few weeks now. And with the New Earth Practices, you do not have to have a requirement in regards to the 30-day BCR technique. It's good that you have that under your belt if you do. But no, this is not meant to be a prerequisite in any way relating to the 30-day challenge of the BCR. So if you're again just tuning into this for the very first time, welcome, and it's good for you to be here. What we're going to do right now is we're just going to go ahead, relax yourself, take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and just take a moment with me now. Another deep breath in, and another deep breath out. Now, what we're going to be doing quite commonly through the episodes of New Earth Practices is we start off just with some very simple breathing techniques, right? So usually we just start off with some cleansing breaths. Of course, we start off by taking a moment, and we go into some deep cleansing breaths, and then we do about 1 minute of heart rate variability, okay? So let's just go into the deep cleansing breath right now. So let's take a deep breath in, deep breath out, deep breath in, deep breath out. One more time, in and out. Okay, and just take a moment, see how you feel. After taking those deep cleansing breaths, we're cleansing the inner self. Right? We're cleansing the inner body. We're cleansing ourselves just with that breath, relaxing everything. We're basically just creating a baseline. Okay? Second thing we're going to do now is heart rate variability. Now, I've talked about this through the BCR Technique 30-Day Challenge. If you're not familiar with heart rate variability, what we're doing is we're just taking a stream of breath in and out with no pauses in between, before, in between, or after. All right? So what this means is that you're working with a simple breath, let's say, for example, 4 seconds in through nasal breathing, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a streaming of exhaling breath, adding 1 or 2 seconds as an exhale as you're breathing out through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? What this is doing is this is lowering the heart rate. This is working together and stimulating your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. This is balancing and forming equilibrium with the body. So that's what we're going to do right now for a total of 1 minute. So 4 seconds into the nose, 6 seconds out to the nose, no pauses in between. Okay? So let's take 1 minute starting now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And last breath. And relax. Okay. So again, very short and sweet. I always encourage you guys to doing about maybe 10 or 15 minutes worth of heart rate variability breathing at least, 1 time per day. If you're doing it for longer, that's even better, right? Heart rate variability has so many health benefits to you. And it's also very important because that's what's helping us to bring ourselves into the subtle state of being, right? Where we're going into a state of low idle nature. What that's doing is that's bringing yourself much more into an immersive state, going within, so that you're actually working with meditation practices to moving from the left brain to the right brain. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, is we're going to be looking at the non-linear mind. All right. So I'm going to pull up the whiteboard here, And we're going to get into that topic today. So we're looking at the, oops. There we go. Oh, geez. Okay. Let me just go back to my program here. There we go. Okay. So we're looking at the left and right brain. Okay, so do a simple little crude drawing here of the brain. Not a very good one, but it'll have to do. Okay. So when we're looking at the hemispheres, the left and the right brain, right? I'm just going to break it down very simply. We're not going to get too complicated here. So when we're looking at the left and we're looking at the right, the left, of course, is the analytical mind. It is what puts words together. It's what basically organizes and allots everything. It's all based upon the nature of sequence, right? Otherwise, we can simply look at it as linearity. Apologize for my chicken scratch, but that's how I write. So it is the linear left brain, right? And this is what the majority of us continue to work with each and every single day. This is why we get tired. This is why we get fatigued. This is why we get exhausted. This is why we get burned out, because we're constantly here. The left brain takes a lot of energy, right? It wants to organize everything. It needs to analyze everything. It needs to evaluate everything. It needs to examine everything. It needs to process everything. It needs to allot everything. It needs to put everything together in sequence, right? But what is it exactly that it is putting together? What is it that it is actually extracting and trying to compile relating to all of this data and information that we're getting through the analytical brain? Well, we're basically just seeing a big picture, right? This is what we call life. This is the big picture of life. And so the left brain will come in here, and it'll try and just go in the corner here, and it'll just start messing around and start putting all of this analytical information based upon a certain topic that's contained inside this little box, and just trying to route it back into the left brain, into the analytics, into the examination, into linearity, into processing, right? And like I said, the more that you're just thinking about it, the more you're just ready to have your brain burnt out. Right? That's what the left brain does. Left brain is this constant worker, right? It always wants to work. It always needs to put all these things together. It needs to organize all these things, etc., etc. But then we move over into the right brain, where we look into the idea of the nature of the non-linear. Okay? It is all-knowing, because it sees all. It is all interconnected. Everything is one. It is the big picture. It is the God mind. We could also call it the Akashic Records. We could call it the Hall of Amenti. We could call it the collective unconscious. We can call it the universal library, whatever you want to call it. The right brain does the complete opposite of what the left brain is, right? The left brain is all about taking these little chunks, these little bits, and trying to process everything into some type of continuity, into a process, into a sequence, into linear time, right? Right brain is completely nonlinear. It is the big picture. It doesn't use words to communicate. It just shows you everything, right? It shows you how you are everything. It shows you how you're interconnected to every single living thing. It shows everything to you. It reveals everything. This is how certain readers are able to go into the right brain and access the Akashic Records, for example, are able to go into the God mind and actually retrieve all of this information, because it shows you everything. It always shows you the big picture. So it's kind of like the wise monk, right, that's sitting on top of the mountain, who never talks, but is wise beyond anything that we could ever imagine. The left brain is over here, right? He's just having his notepad. He's trying to write everything down. Tell me about this. How does this work? How does this work? This work, right? And all the monk is doing is just showing him, right, exactly what is everything that exists. Well, hang on, and he's just being analytical and putting everything down and trying to put everything together in a state of sequence. So the right brain represents that nature of non-linearity. It is everything. It is the God mind. Most importantly, it is the non-dual. Right? That's the nature of the right brain. This is why so many masters, so many ancient sages, so many of the great teachers of the past have given clues, taking man to the right brain, taking man to the non-linear mind, rather than getting stuck in the left brain, where you're constantly getting exhausted, where you're constantly getting fatigued, because we give so much power to the left. We give so much power to the linear brain, and that's what burns us out, because we're constantly wanting to get more data accumulation, still looking at things. Again, like we're a tiny little ant, and we're just trying to look at this big picture, and we just have to take little snippets out here and there, and just get bits and bits and bits of information, right? So left brain in no way is bad. It's not a bad thing in any way. It's just that its nature in regards to how it exists, if we continue to pour all of that energy into the left brain, it's not meant to handle that kind of pressure, right? If we're looking at the left and the right brain here, then the simple geometry is this. We have the figure 8. We have the infinity. We have the cross connection, right? The right brain interacts with the left brain. The left brain interacts with the right brain, right? So they all work together and they create a cross connection. So what I'm teaching you guys here today is how you can move a lot more deeper into the right brain, right? Because that is what's going to show you everything that you need to know, right? That's what's going to show you everything in regards to the nature of creation, the nature of life, right? So we're basically just looking to relax the monkey mind, right? So that's what we commonly refer to, the left brain, the chattering mind, the left brain, the monkey mind. We're attempting to get out of that. And so for us to get out of that, well, we've already done a particular demonstration of how that can happen, right? We start off with the cleansing breath. We're making ourselves active, okay? Then we're going into heart rate variability, right? So like I said, doing it longer than a minute, right? The minute is just mostly a demonstration to give you an idea of how the heart rate variability works, okay? So I'd say doing about 10 to 15 minutes worth of that heart rate variability to start off with. Okay, and as you're doing that, you're feeling like you are immersing yourself. You're going deeper. You're going into a subtle state of being, right? This is what I teach through the BCR Technique 30-Day Challenge, right? These are the first steps, is that you're doing phase 1 and phase 2 breathing. Well, that's what we're doing here, to go deeper into the non-linear mind. Our goal, through much of the New Earth practices, is to get you into the world of the non-dual, right? That's where we're going. Now, like I said, if you've already done 30 days of the BCR technique, you're well ahead of the game. You're a mile ahead right now. If you haven't done it, that's okay. But I'd certainly recommend that you do take some time to work with the 30-day challenge, right? Giving yourself 30 days, allotting it on your calendar, and going through the process, because this is what's going to really catch you up to speed here. But if you haven't done it, don't worry. You can still do this even if you haven't done the 30-day challenge, all right? So again, as we're doing the heart rate variability, right, 10, 15 minutes, and we start to feel that immersion, we start to feel very still, and that's one of the most important things as well too. When you're doing meditation, keep yourself as still as possible. Don't move so much, okay? I've been talking about this through years, and the importance, it's kind of like you're just imagining yourself like a granite statue, right? I've talked about quite extensively in the past. You want to keep yourself still because you're keeping yourself as an anchor, right? You want to remain as that kind of anchor, granite statue, and you're just keeping yourself very still so that you're anchoring in all of this energy. You're anchoring in all of this process that's taking place. So as we go from the cleansing breath, as we go into heart rate variability, what we want to do, and what I'd recommend as well too, is keeping your place, whatever your space is, right? Keeping it pretty dark, okay? Not having a lot of lights on, okay? Turning the lights off, right? Closing the drapes. Even if there's a little bit of light that's still coming through, try and put like a towel or something over it, put a heavier drape over it, just so you're more so in a dim environment. If you're in a dark environment, that's great. If you're in a dim environment, that's okay too. We want to try and minimalize the light that's coming into our space, okay? The reason why we're doing this is because this is what's actually bringing us into greater states of focus, greater states of awareness, but you're also able to see what's happening inside, right? So with our eyes closed and with the room very dim or the room very dark, you may actually start to see visualizations coming directly into your third eye, into your inner spirit eye. All right. This is very important because, again, as we're going into the low idle, subtle state, you may start to experience visions, right? And that's the indication that you're moving much more into the right brain. Another simple thing that we can do is that as the room becomes dark, right, and we don't really have any light seeping through, and we're just staring ahead. As we're staring ahead, we can basically just take our index fingers, just like this, and they become our peripheral pillars. And we're just staring right ahead, and we're just attempting to take everything in at the same time. Okay? So with the peripheral pillars that are here, and you're just staring ahead, everything you see, smell, taste, touch, and hear is being taken in simultaneously. So I want you to try that now. Taking your index fingers just like this, just so they become peripheral. They're within your peripheral sights. I want you just to stare ahead. I want you just to focus on taking everything in at the same time. Not thinking about it, not analyzing. Just take in your entire environment and all of its sensory perception at once. And you can start to feel it. You can start to feel that sensation of going into the quiet, right? If you're starting to notice that the thoughts are becoming less and less, then you're going more into the right brain, okay? Where your thoughts are a bundle, where they're a mess, right? Where they're just all over the place, that's a heavy left brain mentality, okay? Well, all we're trying to do right now is soften that, right? So the goal here over the next little while is for you guys to soften the brain, is to go out of the left brain, coming more into the right, okay? And you know you're coming more into the right when the thoughts themselves lessen, right? When you feel like there's just complete and total quiet within your mind, great, you're in the right brain, right? So as you go into that stillness of thought, right, the thoughts just become significantly reduced. Even if you're just getting only one or two thoughts every minute or so, that's still very, very good. We want to reduce the thought flow coming into the mind, right? And we want to keep ourselves still. So again, this is why we're doing the peripheral pillars. And what the peripheral pillars are also doing is they're helping you to dilate the eyes, okay? So your eyes get naturally dilated as you continue to work together with the peripheral pillars. As your eyes get dilated, this is kind of like the access point to the right hippocampus of the brain, okay? The right hippocampus and the left amygdala are the access points to moving into the right brain, okay? Jesus talked about the nature of the right brain quite commonly, right? There's one example as well, too, where he was talking to his disciples who were in the fishing boat and telling them to throw their net on the right side of the boat so that they can reap their reward, right? That's the nature and the idea of the kingdom of heaven, is that you're going into the right brain. You're moving into the non-dual, right? And as you go into the non-dual, you can speak to God. You can speak to the mind of God. This is why I say that the right brain represents the Akashic records, the hall of Amenti, the collective consciousness, the collective unconscious, the God mind, okay? All of this represents, right, that kind of kingdom of heaven mentality. We're moving into the right brain. As we're going into the right brain, we are now able to talk to God, right? Because we're talking to the God mind. And that's you entering the non-dual state. Well, Brad, how do I go into that non-dual state? It's because you're not thinking, right? You're not bombarded by thoughts. You're not conflicted. You're starting to form equilibrium with everything that exists. You're forming equilibrium with all of creation because you're going into that state of stillness, right? Your eyes are dilating. Again, you're still doing the heart rate variability. You're doing the peripheral pillars. Your space is dim or dark, right? And you're just going into that softer space. Because to be in the right brain, here's what it feels like. It's very soft. It's very expansive. It's very spacious. Okay? It's very gentle. It's very subtle. When you're going into the right brain, you're basically going into the causal plane, right? That's where you're moving. We're not going into the astral. Okay? The astral still relates to a lot of thoughts. It's a lighter plane. It's more of the subtle plane. but we're going into the causal plane to where we can access everything. It's the idea plane. It's the plane to where all ideas, all conceptions, all brilliances in regards to our inventive mind comes from. That's the causal, right? So when you're moving into the right brain, you are moving much more into the causal nature of reality. And that is where you're talking to the God mind. So when you're there, you certainly may have an intention. You may want to speak to the God mind. It's as I've talked about, many inventors of our past knew about this. They knew about going into the God mind. They knew about going into the right brain, into the non-linear mind. And they would, again, just get to the point where they're almost sleeping, right? They'd start to feel like a little fatigued, right? But you're not heavily fatigued. You're kind of just going into that a little bit so that you're going into that spaciousness, right? You're going into that expanse, representing the non-linear mind. And while they're there, they just basically have that thought of what it is that they want to put into the library. And now all of a sudden they're getting these downloads, right? So you can instruct it and say, okay, well, once I do my meditation, a download comes through, just make sure that that download comes afterwards, right? You can instruct everything. You command everything. It's like I've talked about in the BCR technique. You're capable of commanding absolutely everything, okay? So you're just commanding through the right brain. I'm going to go into this meditation state first, and after I'm done, please send me any download that comes together, right? So that's kind of like your pre-meditative instruction prior to going into the right brain, to going into the non-dual, okay? So that is our goal. This is what we're going to work on here today, is just reflecting on these simple processes. So what are we going into? Number one, just get your cleansing breath going. Get yourself nice and relaxed for the cleansing breath. Number two, take 10 to 15 minutes doing heart rate variability, okay? Doing your HRV breath. Number three, the space that you are in, make sure it is dim or dark, okay? Have no lights on. Turn all the lights off, even if it's in the daytime. If you're in a nice sunny place, right? Make sure all the lights are off. Close the curtains. You put some extra draperies if you need to really get the darkness into your room, okay? You can have dim light. Dim light is fine. But try to get your room as dark as possible. Make sure it's also a space where you know you're not going to be disturbed, okay? So as you're in your dim, dark space, you're again doing the heart rate variability for 10 to 15 minutes, okay? Now, what a common effect that may happen as you're doing heart rate variability, like I said, we're being like a granite statue, we're not moving, right? What you may notice is that your breath may start to get shallow. Okay, after you do 15 minutes of heart rate variability, right? Forrest Knudsen, right? Person I talk to quite commonly, talks about this quite often because he talks a lot about heart rate variability, right? And he talks about what's known as the 4 proofs, right? One of those proofs is that you may feel that your hands get warm, or your hands may get hot or heavy. And it mainly comes out because we're holding our hands out, our palms are facing upwards, right? We're feeling a lot of that chi flow. We're feeling a lot of that life energy moving into our palms, right? And it's getting very hot and it's getting very heavy. It varies person to person. That's one particular proof. Second thing is you may start to feel your lips tingling, okay? Particularly the bottom lip. You may start to feel your skin tingling as well too. You again may start to feel that kind of stimulation of the dorsal vagal complex at the same time, okay? These are all very, very common. But one of the other common effects is tranquil breath. This is what many people refer to as the non-breathing state. Really, there is no such thing. Your body has to breathe. Simply as simple as that. But it's at the point to where you're looking at someone as if they were sleeping, right? Their breath is very, very shallow. You hardly hear them, right? Because their breath is so incredibly shallow. It's just like this, right? It's like this thick, right? Right? It's so thick. It's so shallow. And you may feel like the person's not even breathing, but they are. It just appears as if they're not breathing, right? So quite a few people have had that and saying, Brad, what is that? What's that? Forrest Knudsen, again, has talked about it. He's referred to it as the tranquil breath. Okay, and I've had this quite a bit in my past as well, too. I just never had a name for it. It's a good thing that I went and I met Forrest because he puts a lot of definitions into these things that I was commonly doing. Oh, man, because I've been meditating for years. I never really knew what to call that. It was just kind of a shallow breath. I said, yeah, that's the tranquil breath, right? This is where people get the mistake of thinking that like a yogi is breathless, but they're not breathless. Their breath is so incredibly shallow. that you can't really monitor it. You can actually just put your finger right there and you wouldn't even be able to feel their breath, and you think that they're actually breathless, but they're not. They're just breathing very, very shallow. Okay? And that's the tranquil breath. So you may come across that doing 10, 15, 20 minutes of heart rate variability. Okay? Don't be alarmed if that happens. That's all part of a natural breath. That's all part of, again, the stimulation of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Okay? And you're just going through that shallow breath state. I've been there quite a few times myself, right? So, okay, this is very interesting, right? The shallow breath, okay? So that's an effect of heart rate variability. And like I said, you're working with the peripheral pillars, okay? And you're just picking a point forward, right? So let's say there's a little dot on my wall here. I'm just focusing on that dot. And again, I'm using my index fingers here as the peripheral pillars. They remain in my peripheral vision. And I'm just looking at that dot, but I'm taking everything in at the same time. The dot is just where I'm placing my eyes, but I am just being aware of everything that's in my space. So I'm being aware of everything I see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. And as that happens, and I continue to take all that in, the thoughts reduce, okay? Because you're just being aware of taking all sensory stimulation into yourself. Not judging it, not analyzing it, not evaluating it, not doing any of that stuff, right? Just taking everything in at once without any thought, right? This is what's going to basically, quote unquote, kill out those thoughts. It's not killing them, but it's kind of like you're just taking the valve and you're closing the thought stream, right? And now the thoughts become less and less. As they become less and less, and as you feel like you're becoming a lot more still, you're moving into the right brain. Okay? As you're moving into that right brain, you want that feeling of expansiveness, you want that feeling of stillness, you want that feeling of quiet, you want that feeling of subtlety. That's you moving into the right brain. Okay? Some of you may actually start to see a light coming into your mind as well too, into your third eye, right? That too is quite common. That's spirit light, right? I've talked about that before. Forrest Knudsen has talked about that using what's known as the yoni mudra, right? Where you're taking your thumbs here, placing them over your ears, okay? And just taking your pinky fingers and just putting them right at the edge of your eye, and you're looking up, and you just keep it there for as long as you can, and you may start to see a light coming in. You're borrowing the light of the physical eyes, looking upwards, and actually using that light to perceive spirit light. Okay, we're going to be getting into that into another episode, but that's something else that you can look into as well. So the key here is being able to get yourself as quiet, as subtle in the vibration as possible, moving into the non-dual mind, right? And when you're there, now you can experience whatever it is you want, right? You can put that intention forward. It's not even really a thought. It's just your heart intent, right? So this is something that you want to ask yourself prior to starting the meditation. What do I want to ask the collective unconscious? What do I want to ask the God mind? What do I want to intend? What's my intention through the God mind? Do I have an intention? Do I just want to float in the right brain? That's fine as well too, right? But if you have an intention about what you want to know, right, this is where you're dialoguing with the higher self. This is where you're dialoguing with the higher mind. This is where you're dialoguing with the Hall of the Mentee, the Akashic Records, the God mind, etc., right? So have a plan first, right? So we just take our notepad here, and we just write down, what is it that I want to experience? What do I want to go through? Is there any intent on my mind that I want to present when I'm in the right brain? Okay? Because now I'll see it. You'll actually be able to see these things just unravel. It's like geometry. It's like these spinning energies coming through. These rotating energies. They're just coming through and then they're speaking to you, right? And when your meditation is concluded, you'll start to feel these downloads coming through, because we're asking those downloads to come through after our meditation experience is finished. Okay? Forrest Knudsen also talks about this. It's a very good thing to do. That way you're not getting interrupted by downloads while you're in that meditative state. You want to experience the bliss and the peace and the subtlety of being in the right brain. Right? And then afterwards, once you're finished, you come out of it. Now you're getting those downloads. Oh my God, this is great. Okay, I got to get a piece of paper. I got to get my MP3 recorder and start documenting this. Now you're getting your information coming through, okay? So we're going to be exploring this in great detail, guys. There's so much here relating to going into the nonlinear mind. We are, of course, going to be looking into many other different practices as well, too, throughout the course of the mornings here. Again, New Earth practices are Monday to Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So let me just go over quickly to see if anybody has any questions here. Okay, here's one from Tommy. Hello, Tommy, and hello, everybody. Thank you again for being here. Tommy says, hey, Brad, when I'm working my chakras, my sacral chakra really sends off an energy and is way more noticeable than the others. Does this mean this one needs healing? Yes, that's usually the call out for it. Sometimes each of us can perceive our chakra centers differently, right? But if we can actually go within, we can actually see our chakra centers. We may notice that one is maybe protruding a lot more than the usual. If it's a lot more brighter than the usual, that's basically like a beacon. It's like a beacon that's coming out and saying, hey, I need some attention here, right? So when we're looking into the sacral chakra, we're looking into sexuality, we're looking into connections, we're looking into relationships, right? So we want to look into the nature of the sacral chakra. We don't have to go so much invested into the story though, right? What you want to do is you're just placing your hands to where you feel the sacral chakra is, and you're just taking deep breaths, right? Deep breath in, deep breath out. And I want you just to rub it clockwise, okay? Clockwise rubbing, okay? And you're just taking those deep breaths in and you're breathing into the chakra center and you're breathing out. We're going to have some advanced exercises with the chakras in future episodes. But right now, just take your hand, right? Start rubbing in a clockwise direction. Deep breath in, deep breath out. And you're sending that breath, you're taking that tranquil breath and you're bringing it into the chakra center and you're rubbing it in through the clockwise direction of your hand, okay? And that's helping it to settle, okay? So that is indeed a very it's kind of an alert, right? It's like a beacon that's coming out, it's protruding a little bit, and you're getting that kind of strong activity within one particular chakra center because it's kind of like an alert system. It's very good, Tommy, that you're able to notice that, right? That shows that you're quite sensitive, right? You can become a lot more aware of that. So we want to look into that, right? This may also relate to some physical conflict that may be within the body as well too. So we're making sure we're drinking lots of water, okay? So again, what I'd recommend if you guys have the means is invest into hydrogen thermoses, okay? There's a couple companies that sell these. You can actually go on Amazon as well too and just look for hydrogen water thermoses, okay? Drinking a lot of these per day, and I've been using this now for quite a while, and it has really helped with the flow of the body, right? It's really helped. It really goes in and it cleans out a lot more of the debris in the body on a much more deeper level rather than just drinking the common oxygen water, right? So you're basically getting hydrogen-rich water through electrolysis. It's coming through, you're drinking it down, and it's going into a greater cleansing on a deeper level. That really helps to clean out your body a lot more, okay? Great, guys. We're out of time for episode number 1, right? We just average about 30 to 35 minutes per episode. So join me again for episode 2 tomorrow. We're going to go through a demonstration of the nonlinear mind. We're going to go into a demonstration of the right brain, and we're going to be speaking a lot more on the non-dual. So again, thank you everybody for joining me today for New Earth Practices, and I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Take care, guys, and may it be well with you. Goodbye for now.